everyone. I'm Christine, sitting here with Tom, the Enterprise Sales Director at Block Apps, and we are here at the Bitcoin Mining Pavilion at the NAPE Energy Expo. Tom, it's great to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about Block Apps and the value that it brings to the blockchain space.
Okay. Block Apps was founded in 2015 by a gentleman named Kieran Lubin. It was incubated out of Consensus, and that'll tell you something right there. It is an Ethereum-based blockchain protocol. The company is involved in transactional business based on blockchain, but it is not crypto-related. So it was founded, and we've been working our way up through the various use cases now, and we have a strong history in all kinds of transactional use cases, and then I'm responsible for bringing this Texas-based applications, specifically into oil and gas.
Wow, that's so interesting. You know, you make an interesting distinction about it's blockchain, but not crypto-related. Do you want to elaborate a little bit about that for our listeners that may not be aware of some of those distinctions?
Yeah, so blockchain is a cryptographic protocol of documenting something in an immutable way that is a ledger that's distributed. You know, a Bitcoin or any sort of cryptographic asset, that's an app that runs on top of it. And so, you know, there's this Bitcoin, and if I give you a little bit, boom, you write it down into the chain, and now it's there. Everybody can see it. It's immutable. You have it, and I don't. But you can use that protocol with many, many other things to achieve a similar benefit. So a documented transaction that doesn't require a giant paperwork trail and 30 days in order to complete itself.
So it's all on the ledger, but it's not a coin in the sense of you're not getting investors that way, but it's more just taking advantage of the blockchain technology to have it all documented on the ledger.
Correct. We are not custodians of anybody's funds. We're not providing an intermediate value. We're just providing a distributed ledger in order to make more efficient business processes.
Wonderful.
And then there are very inaccurate and inefficient business processes that are just the norm all over the world. Every company I've been into, I'll ask them a little bit about, well, how long does it take? How do you do that? And how long does it take? And I just hear, 30 days minimum, 180 days. Sometimes we can't agree on what happened, so we just split the difference. And so there's all manner of use cases that are completely unrelated to tokens or cryptographic assets.
And it sounds like you are quite a veteran in this space. This isn't your first blockchain-related project in the blockchain space.
No, this is the second company I've worked for, and I've been doing this for about 4 years. I was in television advertising sales before I did that, before I came to working on this. And I could just see that, television was cutting-edge technology a long time ago, and it is just essentially linear television is changing. It's going to streaming. It's moving away from the affiliate-based terrestrial real-time TV. And I just did not see a great future in that. So I started looking for things that I could get involved in that would have a great future. And so I went from, a technology that was changing and declining to an ascending technology. But this is much further ahead. Like the adaptation curve of blockchain is really just getting started.
Absolutely. It's neat that you're thinking ahead with just, if you're not in front of the curve with the way everything's going, it sounds like you were seeing it way back when with the TV, and now you're already at the forefront of the blockchain stuff.
I saw it with newspapers.
Wow.
And then
that's a while back.
Yeah, you could just see the decline, and then that money moved over to television, and then that money was moving into the digital advertising economy. And so I was interested in software and digital projects, and then I stumbled upon blockchain. And then I started going to these innovation meetings that they have all over Houston, and I started listening to the speakers, and then it just started dawning on me, wow, this is a big deal. This is amazing. Then I started working in it, and then I started going to, all these companies we see here. I was in their offices and having them describe to me how they did things, how they accomplished their business process. And that's when I began to realize, this is transformative.
Absolutely. So you're focused particularly on Texas. What are some of the projects that you're working on right now in the state?
Well, we have a bunch of projects here, and I can cover sort of the broad use cases, but I can start with a specific project because it's a specific kind of a use case. There is a nonprofit here called Upbrain, and they work in child welfare. So if a child enters the custody service, they're being abused and they're taken out of their home, they might move a whole bunch of times. In fact, they will move. They'll go to the police station. They might go to a foster home. They might go to a whole bunch of them. And what happens is that the child gets disassociated from their own history, which would be their shot record, their school records, they're 4. They don't know these things. They might not know it themselves. And so eventually they end up they just got to get the shots again. They get sent, they got to do second grade again, because when you disassociate them from their records, it has a profound implication. In the same way it would for an adult. You can't get on an airplane without a document. There's all kinds of things associated with our life that you cannot do unless there's a representation of you that's shareable and distributable. So in the blockchain application there is we can take all the records associated with that child, connect it to them through some sort of identity mechanism, a social security number, something like that. And then wherever they go, whoever needs access to those records can see it because it's immutably attached into a blockchain ledger. And so somebody needs to see it, they can see it. When they no longer need to see it, it's closed off to them.
Okay. So there is that capacity for anonymous for the eyes that don't need to see it, but then the ones that have particular access to see it, the doctors or the foster parents, you have that capacity to
Correct.
Keep it private from those that don't need to see it.
Yeah, in a rules-based ledger, the rule is what do you make immutable?
Yeah.
And who needs to see it? And that's what Upbrain's doing. They did a pilot with us. We've proven that it's going to work, and now they're looking to move it into commercial applications. But it attaches, would say an object. In this case, yes, it's a human, it's a kid. But you could do the same thing with a building. So a building has a documentary stack that represents that building. And it's paper. It's distributed amongst a whole bunch of other entities like a government or a utility. So what we're trying to do is create a rules-based system to write the documentary stack of an asset to where it can be seen or not seen on a rules-based, and then it can be transferred. So imagine if you're selling something and it's a token on a blockchain, then the person that needs to see it can see it, evaluate it. They don't need to do 30 days of due diligence on something that somebody else just looked at last week.
Yep.
And then when it's sold or moved, you just move the token, right? And that's one of the a blockchain use case that we're working on here in Texas that has to do with assets. Now, the 2 other cases that I've had quite a bit of experience with is just straight up transactions.
Okay.
Which they do a lot in oil and gas. There's a lot of trucks.
Yeah.
The trucks go somewhere, they pick something up, they take it somewhere else, they drop it off, and then they get paid for it. Documenting of that. Is it the right truck? How much did they get? Where did they go? Where did they drop it off? There's a paper trail that follows around behind that, and it's slow to begin with, and it's also very often inaccurate, and sometimes it's just straight up fraudulent. But if you capture that data as it's occurring in real time, you filter it through the rules, which would be a contract. Like, how much do you get paid? You get paid by the mile, you get paid by the barrel. And then when all of that sort of is aligned and meets the requirements of the contract, that's when you want to make it immutable. And that is it. The record is done. Both parties can see it. There is no need to wait. They can do all kinds of things about that, but that's a transactional blockchain application.
Keeps everything transparent, keeps everyone honest.
Mm-hmm. And it's secure. And then the third one, so there's tokenization, like Upbrain does, or like we could do with buildings and assets, physical assets.
Tokenizing the record for that child and taking it with them wherever they go.
So we're documenting a process so that the transaction can be accurate and fast. And then the third one is what I would put into provenance or track and trace, or what we're calling T-commerce. So you have e-commerce plus traceability. So where did this thing come from? What's in it based on where it was? So there's fuel applications in that. So if you're going to buy fuel, you want to know which refinery, what additives it had, so that when you buy it, you know what you're buying. The way they do that now is they just repeatedly test it. This guy gets it, he puts a dipstick in it, he gets a paper record, and he may or may not pass that on. So the way that provenance is done now is very slow. And if you're ever going to track emissions, this company, moved it, this company bought it, this company consumed it, here's all of the emissions associated with manufacturing it. That is beyond the scope of your standard Excel spreadsheet, which is what people do to track all kinds of things now. So it's transactional, tokenization, and provenance are 3 use cases that I've been involved with quite a bit, and they have nothing to do with cryptocurrency.
Absolutely. Wow. So many use cases for businesses. And it seems like also a lot of education, just helping them think through the possibilities of the potential of this kind of technology to save them money, to save them time, to cut out middlemen.
Yeah, and it's a lot of what I do is education, because in the same way that all the vernacular associated with the regular internet used to have, it used to have a vocabulary that we don't use anymore. Nobody says World Wide Web, internet superhighway. That was all just words that we used to explain what this thing was back when nobody really knew what it was. And so blockchain is the same way. The word means different things to different people. It has been, a miracle technology that people didn't understand, and it can be a technology that now people will associate it with fraud, because there has been fraud in this space. But in its core, its essence, it's a ledger. In fact, one of our board of directors, James, described it this way, which in one of the meetings he said this, is that sort of the original internet provided abundance. Right? So I've got this document that I want to publish, and I put it on the internet, and everybody in the world can get a copy. Right? This is what did the newspaper in. All they really ever had was a monopoly on the distribution. But as soon as I could get past that, I could make abundance with my thing, and anybody could publish, and that was great. Or if I want to distribute music, I've got a copy, and I'm going to give a copy to you and all these people, so I'm making abundance. What the blockchain does is create scarcity, because there is one. There is one of this thing, and I have written it down right here. This transactional ledger represents one truck trip between 2 people, and now there's a dollar figure associated with it. Or this record represents this child. So it's a scarcity mechanism that allows for, you need scarcity in transactions. Right? Even in Bitcoin, if you have it, it's important that I don't. So there is one. If I give you a $20 bill, you have that bill, and I do not. So a blockchain will allow scarcity, whereas the previous version of the internet has pretty much provide endless abundance. I think it's a pretty good way to understand what it does.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Wow. Well, Tom, thank you so much for taking the time with us. And we will have contact information on the clip on how people can get in contact with you. But I wish you all the best.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate you having me here.
Thank you for watching, and check out our channel for more interviews from NAPE.
Hey everybody, Ryan Harper. I'm sitting at the NAPE Summit 2023 here in Houston, Texas at the TBC Pubject Power podcast booth. And I just wanted to give a couple of updates about the summit and what we have planned. We just went live with our ticketing, and I just sent an email out to, 5,000 plus people to get early bird ticketing. But that's not why I wanted to do a video. One of the things I wanted to convey is what we have planned, what we have aspirations to be, and how we see the summit being moving forward. The last 2 years have been amazing events, and it's been centralized around Texas, centralized around policy, and great efforts in Austin, Texas. Moving forward, we want to have a much bigger footprint. We're going to be in Fort Worth in November 15th and 16th. We're going to be at the convention center. We're going to have a trade show floor. We're going to have speakers that you didn't think that we could get. We have aspirations to get some high quality, high profile people, both in policy, both in political world, and in the Bitcoin blockchain digital asset space. We're going to have workshops, we're going to have startups, we're going to have universities, we're going to have nonprofits, we're going to have opportunities for startups to pitch their products. We're going to have opportunities for nonprofits to kind of showcase what they're doing, their social initiative. Our goal is to include everything that enterprise, blockchain, Bitcoin, digital asset space would want in an event. Bitcoin Miami is amazing. Consensus is amazing. Both of those events have 20,000 plus people, but both of those events are probably more of your retail space. Our goal is to make the summit the premier policy, Bitcoin, blockchain, digital asset space for everyone across the country. If you're an enterprise, if you're professional, if you want to do deals, if you want to make real change, the summit is where you need to be. This video was supposed to be 30 seconds. You're welcome. Anyway, we look forward to giving you more updates, and we'll see you at the summit.